first of all, I hate speaking after Carolyn Calloway Thomas because everyone else pales in comparison to her style.
Always.
I don't remember when I first met Robert Shutter, but I remember when I first read his work. First, I was a master's student at Abilene Christian University in West Texas. All the rest of the world, in terms of nonverbal communication, we're talking about high and low contact cultures, dividing things in dichotomies. And Robert Shutter did a couple of studies in the mid-1970s, looking first at Europe and then at South America, where he found differences between 3 different Latin American nations, complicating the way we see touch versus touch and distance and gaze, breaking apart the notion of high and low contact just a little bit. Later, in the 1990s, I was moving on to my doctoral program at Arizona State University, and one of our readings was the now classic essay, The Centrality of Culture. All the rest of the discipline was highlighting and magnifying Hofstede's axes and using these as ways to break apart cultures. And Robert Shutter comes along and says, well, wait, let's stop. We really can't talk about cross-cultural understanding until we really understand the notion of each culture in and of itself. So he begins to go against the grain in terms of thinking about culture. The essay was important to me because I am at heart a Latin Americanist, and one of those areas of the world that Robert Shutter said was neglected at that time by communication research. I would see him at conferences and later read and then used for years his essay in the Samovar and Porter Reader on the non-applicability of Western ethical systems to non-Western cultures, and where the rest of the intercultural world is trying to find some unifying theme that ties us together in the world of ethics. Robert Shutter is one of the few to say, well, no, there's still something to be said for ethical relativism, at least in terms of communication ethics. And the people who have a Muslim system or a Buddhist system follow a different ethical framework than those who are raised in the Neo-Aristotelian era. So even today, that essay informs me as I talk to my students in undergraduate comm theory classes about non-Western ways of thinking and building cultures, borrowing from Asia-centrism and Afrocentrism. Sometime during these years, and I don't remember when, I was at a conference in Chicago. I was a younger scholar, and Bob, with his direct and engaging style, came up to me at one of the panels, and he reached out and he shook my hand, looks at mine and says, let's go out and grab some coffee together. I want to find out more about your research. From that time, every conference, we would get, hard to do this. Every conference we would get together for a meal, for coffee. We touched bases, we planned books, one book that never came to fruition. We just talked, and as people have said before, he showed interest in me as a person. He soon began his 4th groundbreaking area of research that others have talked about, the role of electronic and new media as they relate to the processes of intercultural communication. At NCA 2019 in Baltimore, Ben Groom approached me there at the National Convention, said Bob was not doing well. He was in his home, he couldn't come to the conference. I was able to call his home because I live in Normal, not too far away. I talked to his wife. She said he has good days, he has bad days, he might be able to talk to you. And we talked for a while on the phone. I so wanted to go up and visit Bob, and then COVID hit, and he was gone. Bob was a groundbreaker, an innovator, always looking forward, not afraid to go against the grain in his research. His interaction was intense, direct, personable, engaging, involved. He carried with him as if permanent baggage an intensity of communication and a joy of life that he spread to those around him. I will miss him.